You ever get that feeling that maybe the future's already been written? Well, today we're going to jump into a vision that's over 2,500 years old, from the book of Daniel. And let me tell you, it's a real puzzle, a prophecy that has kept historians and theologians scratching their heads for centuries.
So at the heart of this vision is this really mysterious figure. They call him the Little Horn. He just bursts onto the scene, rises to power, and starts this campaign of terror. So the big question is, who is this guy? Is he some historical figure, a ghost from the past, or is he a threat that's still on the horizon? That's the mystery we're going to try and crack today.
And the language in the book of Daniel, wow, it is super dramatic. It talks about this power that gets so big for its britches, so arrogant, that it literally challenges heaven. It goes after the faithful. The text calls them the host of heaven and just tramples them. You can tell right away the stakes here are incredibly high. And everything is wrapped up in this really dense symbolism.
All right, so to figure this all out, we've got a game plan. We'll start with the vision of the beasts, then we'll look at the main historical suspect. After that, we'll hit a little snag in the timeline, check out the different ways people interpret this, and finally, see how where you start really changes where you end up.
Okay, first things first, let's get the scene. Daniel's vision is basically this epic clash of empires, but they're all represented by animals. You've got this big, powerful ram, that's the Medo-Persian Empire. Then, wham! It gets absolutely smashed by a goat with a giant horn. That's Alexander the Great, believe it or not. But then his horn breaks off, and 4 new ones pop up, symbolizing his kingdom splitting apart. And it's out of one of those horns that our mystery figure, the Little Horn, shows up.
So, the million-dollar question, who is this Little Horn? Well, for a whole lot of historians and scholars, the evidence, it all points to one guy. A king from the 2nd century BC named Antiochus IV. And get this, he gave himself the nickname Epiphanes, which means God made manifest. Yeah, a little full of himself, right? Let's build the case against him.
Okay, so Antiochus ruled during a really specific and chaotic slice of history. He takes the throne in 175 BC, and his entire reign is just filled with conflict. He's fighting Egypt, he's fighting the Jewish people in Judea, and it all leads up to this absolutely shocking act of desecration in their temple, just before he dies in 164 BC.
Now, this is where it gets kind of spooky. Look at how perfectly Antiochus's actions line up with the prophecy's rap sheet. Expanded his power south and east? Check. Invaded Israel? Check. Called himself a god? Yep. Stopped the daily sacrifices in the temple? He did that. Violently went after godly people? Absolutely. I mean, the parallels they're pretty hard to ignore.
But wait, there's more. Here's a huge piece of evidence. The prophecy talks about a period of 2,300 evenings and mornings. Most scholars take that to mean 2,300 days. Now, do the math. If you count backwards 2,300 days from when the crisis ended around 1640 BC, where do you land? 171 BC. And what happened that year? The legitimate high priest was murdered, which is what started this whole terrible chain of events. So for a lot of people, that's it. That's the smoking gun. Case closed, right? Well, maybe not.
So just when all the evidence seems to point in one direction, the text itself throws a massive curveball. There's this one little phrase in the angel's explanation to Daniel that just blows the whole case wide open and makes you wonder, what if this isn't just about Antiochus?
Here it is. The angel who's explaining the vision keeps using this phrase over and over, the time of the end. And that has forced everyone to stop and ask a really important question. Does the time of the end just mean the end of this specific problem with Antiochus, or is it pointing to something, much, much bigger?
And right there, that's the heart of the whole debate. Was this prophecy a one-and-done deal, totally fulfilled back then with Antiochus as the bad guy? Or was Antiochus just the opening act? A preview for some final future ruler, what a lot of people would call the Antichrist, who shows up at the very end of time. Suddenly, we've got a whole new set of possibilities to think about.
So how do you even begin to solve a riddle like that? Past versus future? Well, scholars have come up with a few major theories to try and make sense of all the evidence. Let's walk through how each of these different interpretations work.
Okay, so you can pretty much break it down into 4 main ways of looking at this whole thing. First, you've got the pure historical view. It's all about Antiochus, full stop, it's done. Then there's the futuristic view. Nope, has nothing to do with Antiochus, it's all about a future Antichrist. Then things get a little more complex. The dual fulfillment view says, hey, what if it's about both at the same time? And finally, the typical view says it was fulfilled by Antiochus, but he was just a type, like a blueprint or a foreshadowing of the real deal to come.
All right, let's zoom in on those last two, because this is where a lot of the modern debate happens. So dual fulfillment says the prophecy itself is like a pair of bifocals. The words are looking at two things at once, one near, Antiochus, and one far, the Antichrist. The typical view is a little different. Think of it like a movie trailer. The prophecy is about the trailer. That's Antiochus. But that trailer gives you an amazing sneak peek of the future film that's coming later. It's a really subtle difference, but it completely changes how you read the prophecy.
And this whole debate isn't just about this one chapter. It's actually part of a much bigger conversation about how to read the entire book of Daniel. And what's wild is that your conclusion about the little horn almost always comes down to the assumptions you make before you even start reading.
It really all comes down to a fundamental fork in the road. Your entire interpretation is shaped by one big question. When was the book of Daniel actually written? Was it penned back in the 6th century BC during the Babylonian exile, like the book itself says? Or was it written hundreds of years later, right in the middle of the Antiochus crisis?
And that question leads to three totally different approaches. The critical school of thought says it was written around 165 BC, which means it's not really prophecy, but history written to look like prophecy. The other two, the Orthodox views, both accept the earlier 6th century date, but they disagree on the focus. One group sees these prophecies as pointing mainly to the first coming of Christ and the church age. The other group, though, puts a huge emphasis on the end times, seeing Antiochus as a major foreshadowing of what's to come. See, your starting point really does change everything.
So, after going through all that, what are we supposed to think? Maybe the point of the little horn prophecy isn't a simple either-or, past or future. Maybe it's a warning, a pattern of what tyranny looks like, a pattern that just keeps echoing throughout history. It leaves us with a really fascinating thought, doesn't it? Does history just repeat itself, or does it, as some say, rhyme? And if it rhymes, what is this ancient prophecy trying to tell us about the future?